All right, welcome back, everyone. We will reconvene our council meeting for July 19th, and we will start with our Committee of Adjustment. Our first item on the docket is the notice of public meeting to consider application B11-2023, located at 35290 Creamery Road. Do we have someone coming in online with this one? I don't think so, do we? Okay. All right. All right, Stephanie, go ahead.
The purpose and effect of the application for the consent is to sever a surplus farm residence on a lot with a frontage of approximately 10 meters or 33 feet along Creamery Road, and an area of approximately 0.79 hectares or 1.94 acres from a farm parcel with a total area of approximately 40.46 hectares or 100 acres. The lands to be severed contains a single detached dwelling, an accessory building, and are serviced by a municipal water connection and a private septic system. The severed lands have an existing access from Creamery Road. The lands to be retained contains agricultural land and crop production, a barn that is to be removed, and that was at the request of the applicant, and does not contain a municipal water connection or private septic system. And as part of the conditions of the severance application, access will either need to be verified for the farm parcel or a new entrance permit obtained. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the municipality's official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to evaluation criteria. Planning staff are satisfied that the criteria for the severance of a surplus farm residence on the lands have been met or can be appropriately addressed via the conditions of the consent. Notice of the application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The county engineer has reviewed the application and has no comments. Enbridge Gas commented that they do have service lines running within the area, which may or may not be affected by the proposed severance. The Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority did review the application and notes that the regulated area appears to be located just on the retained parcel on the farmland, the bottom corner there up on your screen. And as such does not have a natural hazard concern with the requested severance. The North Middlesex Chief Building Official provided the following suggested conditions for the application, so that all services, including septic well, water, and hydro, be confirmed to be contained to the severed parcel, and that all farm buildings located on the retained lands behind the severed lot be removed to the satisfaction of the chief building official. Hydro One did note that the subject property is bisected by a high voltage transmission corridor. You can actually kind of see it on the map in front of you. It's the long kind of wider streak across the lands. And they have no objection in principle to the application, so long as their easement rights are maintained. And staff have included a condition to that effect within the severance. The North Middlesex Public Works Department, in terms of water, did verify that there's a connection for the existing dwelling. And due to the length of the water service, a water meter would need to be installed at the property line. In terms of new roads, as mentioned, access will need to be verified for a new entrance established for the farm parcel as a result of the severance. In terms of drainage, the lands are not assessed to a municipal drain. In terms of sewers, there's, again, it's privately serviced, so no concerns from a municipal sanitary perspective. And at the time of writing the subject report, staff did not receive any written submissions from members of the public So it is recommended that the application be granted, subject to the conditions which council will have before them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Our applicant is unable to attend tonight and no written submissions, as you said. So is there any comment from the public on this application? Other than Mr. Walker? No comment? Questions from the council? Councilor Daigle.
The only thing I would ask you, I think in our last council meeting, we discussed the addition of the declaring that the land was agricultural, be put on title, so that any future buyer is aware that, because we're getting city people buying these properties and we've got farming operations going on around it. It's to stop people from saying, well, I didn't know that. It's on title. It can't be removed. We've discussed it, I think, with another project where it's put on all the lands. And to me, anything time we're touching agricultural land, we should be making it to protect our farmers is to say, this is agricultural land. You know, so if you get a smell you don't like, you don't call. If you got noise district harvesting, you don't call. Those kind of things.
Stephanie, can you respond to that?
Certainly. So through the mayor to the councillor, condition number 5 in the severance agreement, staff did include a condition that would require a severance agreement that would have the normal farm practices outlined in that.
Does that satisfy your?
So through the mayor to the councillor, I believe generally the severance agreement could be registered on the title of the property, similar to the development agreement.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Irwin.
Just to be helpful for us on council, can we get a copy of how that would read in future so we understand the wording?
Through the mayor to the councillor, certainly staff can follow up with that. I don't have it prepared this evening, but certainly that could be something to follow up with.
Even if we could just have it sent to council, would be great. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation in front of us that this be granted. Moved by Councilor Nerda, seconded by Councilor Keogh. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And our next item is a notice of public meeting to consider application B12 2023 located at 178 Catherine Street. And I believe we do have our applicants coming in online. Please. All right, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect. All right, go ahead, Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, so the subject lands are located on the east side of Catherine Street between Ellen Street and Ross Queen Street within the urban settlement area of Park Hill and are approximately 1,500 square feet in size. The applicant is proposing to create a residential infill lot by way of consent for the purposes of constructing a single detached dwelling. The lands proposed to be severed contains a portion of a rear yard fence and a concrete pad that are to be removed and are otherwise vacant of buildings and structures. And on the screen in front of you is represented by the green outlined portion. And the lands to be retained do contain a, retained lands contained a single detached dwelling and is represented in the yellow highlighted area on your screen in front of you. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the municipality's official plan generally permit lot creation within settlement areas subject to servicing and compatibility. The North Middlesex plan allows for up to 4 lots to be created by way of consent, so long as the subject lands has frontage on a public road that is maintained on a year-round basis and is in an area serviced by municipal water and sanitary sewers. The subject lands front onto Catherine Street, which is a year-round maintained public road, and water and sanitary municipal infrastructure do extend along the frontage of the property. Staff note that both the lands to be severed and the lands to be retained meet the minimum lot area of 460 square meters and lot frontage of 15 meters criteria within the residential density 1 R1 zone. And the applicant has submitted a sketch which demonstrates that the severed and retained lots are large enough to accommodate a building envelope that maintains the zoning regulations for the R1 zone. So staff are of the opinion that the proposed development is appropriate, consistent with the provincial policy statement, and in conformity with the county and North Middlesex official plans. Notice of the application has been circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The North Middlesex Public Works Department requires as a condition that the owner enter into a development agreement to address all planning, engineering, access, grading, other development matters. In terms of water, there is a municipal water service for the existing dwelling, and the new service would require permits and applications for at the time of the new build. In terms of municipal sanitary, the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon Wastewater Treatment Facility currently has a limited capacity to accept additional sewage flows from new developments. Therefore, the municipality is only allowing minor infill sites to proceed with new sanitary sewer connections at this time. In terms of roads, there's an existing access for the retained lands, and the new access would need to be established for a new building lot. In terms of drainage and stormwater, a stormwater management report will need to be completed as part of a condition, as well as a lot grading plan and a drainage reassessment for the Cameron Gillies drain. Enbridge Gas did recognize that there's services within the area that may or may not be impacted. The county engineer has no comments. The North Middlesex chief building official has no objection, but did recommend the following conditions: that the existing fence, concrete, and structures to be removed from the lot being severed, and also the request for a lot grading plan. At the time of writing the subject reports, no written comments have been received from the public. So it is recommended that the application be granted, subject to the conditions which council has before them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, the applicant, anything you'd like to add?
At this time, we don't really have anything we want to add to that.
Okay, thank you. There's no written submission. So once again, any comments from the public? Seeing none, council questions. Councilor Canellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, as I go through the conditions here, item number 10, when you talk about engineering and servicing the lot, does that mean that the current owners of this property are responsible to install the water and sewer connections to the property that they're severing off and would have to pay for that service to be installed?
So through the mayor to the councillor, the development agreement would outline all the engineering and design works that would need to be completed and is generally registered on the title of the property. It doesn't really stipulate if the owner or the future owner would be completing those works.
Okay, so but in order to get it you identify that it needs to be hooked up to the water system, then it needs to be hooked up to the sanitary system, the lot to be severed, to be created. So someone would have to pay for those connections. And my understanding is that you say that it's going to be a service lot to be sold. So no?
So through the mayor to the councillor, the municipality would not stipulate whether the condition in which the sale of the lands occurs.
So then, so the current owners would have to be careful when they sell the property to not engage in providing a service to the lot, because then they would be responsible for these connections. Was that correct?
So through the mayor to the councillor, whomever is installing the services would be subject to the development agreement, which would outline what the requirements were to establish those connections.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time? No other questions. We have a recommendation. Councillor Daigle, Deputy Mayor Hodgins. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, we need to adjourn from Committee of Adjustment and proceed to regular meeting. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Irwin, all in favor? Carried. Delegations are. Oh, we have to do the past minutes. Sorry about that. We need the minutes of previous meeting. Have to do it at the open council. June 21st. Any errors or omissions, business arising? Seeing none, we need a motion to pass. Councillor Irwin, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Delegations. The Mud Creek Bluegrass Festival. Come on up to the seat. I don't know who's all coming up. No, you can sit. Yeah, just turn your mic on. Yeah.
I'm usually fairly boisterous, as people that know me. My name is Gary Walker. I have an interest in bluegrass music, and I have two of the four committee members with me, Steve Greer and Al Draper, supporting us. Mayor and councilors, thank you for listening. It is our intent to run this next year at this time of the year. We'll have a year to organize this. We've already got a fairly big start on it at this point. We're just here hoping to get your blessings. The usual things, it'll bring residents or bring bluegrass to this community for those who don't know what it is. Right, Mr. Irwin? It'll provide family fun. And I know there is an equation from my past experience on the board for Middlesex tourism that will tell you exactly the dollar value to this community based on the number of people that come here. We're anticipating, and we're staying on the small side for the first year. We've made a commitment for 4 to 5 years as a group to make sure this thing happens. First year being the tough year. We're talking about 50 trailers at a downside, based on 2 people per trailer. We have a charge for that, and it'll be an all inclusive. And then we will run day pass coming in on Saturday. We haven't decided on the Friday evening yet. It is our intent to bring in local bands. It's an all Canadian. We're not going outside of Canada. We feel that the nonprofit organizations in our community could benefit from this to raise funds in our vendor area and to bring volunteer hours to our high school. It's my intention as I get older and everyone else gets older, volunteers are hard to get. So if we get involved in the community's youth programs to get them to volunteer and allow them to be part of the vendors, they can raise money too. I think you've all probably read this, what this kind of an event would bring the traffic to the local stores. I think it's imperative to utilize West Williams, as we affectionately call it, or Ken Vernon Memorial Park, so we can keep it. I also have had it on an inside track of the fact that there may be some sort of a team wanting to run tournaments and that sort of thing. The site map is on there, I believe. So the fire safety, I've written that on there. If we get your blessings, I'll go forward and speak with the chief and see what his requirements would be for that campsite. The asks we're having, and I'm sure you have a copy of the budget in there too. It was a tough one to work with. So the ask is that we have outside potable water. I mean, if there's a tap on the outside of the building, that's great, because as the trailers come in, they want to fill up. It'd be self-contained, dry camping. If you're unaware of dry camping, it just means you come in with your unit and you don't have anything but a generator, so we don't expect electricity or water. It'd be nice to have a filling station as they come in. Use of the inside restrooms. Use of event fencing, snow fence for the out of bounds area. We wish to stay off of what the soccer field is. We don't want to utilize that whatsoever. We don't want to make tracks over there to hurt things. I've already had assurance from a couple of folks around this circle that they'll assist us in grant money. Middlesex Tourism, we're working that angle. They have a grant that's out there. If you see it possible that we can have a reduction in a 3-day facility rental, or as I'm aware of another grant that's available that could help us out that way. I know you have to be transparent. You can't give everyone a reduction. I acknowledge that and understand it. Do you have anything else? Get out of something? The dumpster that's already out there, would it be available for us to make sure that I like to talk about bluegrass people as no hairs, gray hairs, and blue hairs. They get up in the morning to have breakfast. They don't stay up all night to drink and get rowdy. When an example being one of the festivals that I've heard of late, they asked the scouts to come in and clean up. When the scouts got there on Sunday afternoon to clean up, they called the chair and said, "What do you want us to clean up? There's no garbage." So, that's the type of people that are coming in. Nothing against country music. I love country music, but we don't want to be an all-night music fest that goes loud music and drunks, simply put. There was something else I thought of there. Yeah, so we're trying to fill a void that all three of us play music and we go to these festivals. There's now, we could name off just real quick 4 of them that are done. COVID brought that on. The volunteers got old and they said, yeah, maybe we won't bother anymore. So that's why we want to aim at young people to get involved, to keep it going. It would be really nice if we could somehow have an outside hydro panel to run the stage. I'm not aware of the capacity at West Williams Hall. I've heard that it'll probably send out enough to run a stage. There will be lighting and amplifiers. I open it up to questions.
All right. Questions from council? Councilor Irwin.
Thank you. No, if I could just ask specifically, what are you asking for council tonight?
Your blessings to use, and if you check the in kind, that's my list.
Okay.
Council.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I like your presentation. I'm excited for you. I really am. I think it's a great idea. But I have a question for you. You're asking for use of the inside restrooms, but you're also putting up portable washrooms. I'm kind of confused on that.
I don't want to tax a lineup at the washroom inside the building. The portable washrooms are not cheap the first year. It's a struggle to get this off the ground the first year.
Okay.
I could show you my pockets and not very deep. So that was the ask. And not only that, but I guess, so one of the thoughts we've had is to ask whoever organizes the farmer's market if they would consider coming out there on the Saturday morning that we're running the event. Those washrooms would be very good for that.
Oh, yeah.
With that in mind, we're hoping that those people will fill out a ballot for a free family pass to the rest of the festival and get their emails.
So you'd be looking to have some food trucks there as well? Is that your suggestion?
Absolutely.
Okay, all
Absolutely.
right. All right. I like the proposal. I have an interest. in food
I
truck.
know you.
Other questions, comments? So you're looking for support in a verbal support of the event happen,
Verbal
right? At this
support.
time. That's
So, yeah, so we can go forward and we don't want to get the cart before.
right. But as you know, you said, you're aware of our grant applications in November and that type of thing, that timing. Okay. So,
We would ask that some of the folks around here would help us with that grant. I'm not good at grant stuff, unlike another person in my family.
well, but but I understand, but right now, but you get the process, like from a financial standpoint, that's I think the right mechanism here rather than, and you're not asking for that tonight, the financial support tonight, more the blessing.
More the blessing. I've already got some people in mind that are going to help us get going financially. And the one thing though, you do have, we need to advertise this right now because the bluegrass festivals are going on. And if we don't have the financial pocket to get that out there, however that's going to be, we have a meeting Friday night with a website builder. So going to be a cost there. You know, we'll have a website, an email address and do it the right way. So if there's any way we can advance some startup money in lieu of, we are willing, and the county $2,500 grant that for bringing people into Middlesex County that you're probably quite aware of. You have to run it in the year that you're doing it. So that would mean we would apply for it next year if it's around. So this year we are willing to put on a freebie down at Old Town Hall in Elsie Craig and call it part of the festival in order to get that grant money moving. That's an angle we're willing to do.
Okay.
You know, we'd ask for a free will offering and hopefully pay some of the guys gas mileage to get here.
Okay. Questions, comments, council? Any other? Looking for support from council. Councilor Daigle.
I'd like to put up for the support, but I'd also like to make sure our recreation department blocks that time off for that facility.
Yeah, and I think it's still up to
It has.
you guys to do the booking and do all that stuff. And you'll be working with the recreation department to make sure those things you need are going to be there. So, yeah, and I'm sure you've already talked to them.
Second.
Seconded. Councilor Irwin, in favor? Carrie, good luck. Look forward to
Thank you.
going to it.
Expect some signs to go up.
Well, it's good timing. After Canada Day, it's just a couple of weeks and you got another event there. That's good for that community.
And we'll be out putting those brochures on their windshields because we want the West Williams people to be there
All right,
as a mob.
excellent.
Right?
All right, thank you, Gary. All right, we have a second delegation and I'd like to welcome Inspector Ross Stewart up, and he is the new inspector for the OPP detachment. We had the opportunity to meet at County Council, and welcome once again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to come before council tonight and introduce myself, but also to provide you with some information about what's been going on in North Middlesex over the last year or so. It's my understanding that you have not received a report prior to the last couple of days for the 2022 calendar year. So That's now something that has been provided, and I do want to touch on a number of things that are contained within that report, as well as to bring you up to speed as to some of the things that are currently happening in the community. So just a little bit about myself. I'm in my 25th year with the OPP. I started in Peterborough County as a recruit, which was wonderful considering I volunteered to go to Northern Ontario, and they decided to send me to Cottage Country instead, which is great. I went from Peterborough into our forensic identification branch, working out of both the Belleville office as well as the London office, investigating major crime, homicides, those types of things. I then had the opportunity to get promoted down in Chatham, and I was supervising what we call a criminal interdiction team. Essentially, myself and a group of other officers were intercepting guns and drugs coming across the Ambassador Bridge and through the tunnel in Windsor. Very interesting work. But I did want to get back to the detachment level after quite some time being in specialized units. And so I took the opportunity to go back to Lambton Detachment in Victoria, where I was a frontline supervisor for a number of years, and then became the operations manager there up until about this time last year, when I went to regional headquarters in London as the regional traffic and marine manager, overseeing the marine and traffic program for OPP for West Region. So, and then this past April, went into a competition specific for the Middlesex Detachment Commander's position, and here I am. So that's just a little bit about me and what my journey's been. I've got 5 years to go before I retire, and I honestly don't know if I'll leave after my 30 or not. We'll see. Very quickly, some of the main priorities for me as the commanding officer in Middlesex and for our 96 uniform members. Mental health is number one. I think we can all appreciate and understand that there has been a notable increase in mental health calls involving police over the last number of years. And certainly what we've seen in the North Middlesex area is an increase in those calls for service as well. And I'll touch on that in a couple of minutes. But I'm very, very passionate about the MCERT program that we have in Middlesex. For those who may not be aware, our MCERT program has 3 crisis nurses embedded in the cruisers with our uniform members, and they physically attend calls for service with our officers. I will tell you that this program started out for them to respond specifically to mental health related calls. And it's progressed and developed into a much broader scope. For example, motor vehicle collisions where a family member is hurt. It's ideal to have a crisis worker on ground to support the family that may have been in the car with their loved one. Even supporting our officers when they go to some of the horrific calls that they have to go to on a daily basis. So the second real priority for me is traffic safety. Being the regional traffic and marine manager for a period of time, you can appreciate that it is something I'm very passionate about. My expectations for our members here in Middlesex is a robust traffic enforcement, traffic education program. I don't believe that it always should be enforcement. I do believe there's a place for education, but make no mistake, I do think that enforcement is important too. And in fact, for North Middlesex, I've already had the opportunity to work very closely with Ashley on a couple of concerns that have been raised, whether that is some speeders going through the construction zone that was brought to my attention last May, or even just yesterday when we had the opportunity to have some conversation about people going through stop signs on John Street. So I will make that commitment to everybody in this room tonight. Traffic enforcement, high visibility patrols, as well as education are something that you can expect out of your Middlesex officers. And I will speak a little bit about our enforcement numbers. The third thing, and this really brings me to tonight, is the third priority for me is accessibility and accountability. I am someone who is a big believer in being accessible to the community as a detachment commander. being accessible to council if you have questions or concerns. Frankly, you should be able to get a hold of me at any time. That's a fair expectation to have of me. And that's something that I'm committed to. But there's also the accountability piece, and that is being transparent with each of you about where your community stands from a law enforcement standpoint, from a crime trend standpoint, even when those numbers may not be the greatest at times. What you won't get from me is fudging the numbers. I'll own them if the numbers aren't good. You know, I will tell you, and I'll make a commitment to doing everything I can to make those numbers better. So really, those are my three priorities. I just want to take a few minutes now to speak in specifics about some of the things that have been going on. From an overall standpoint, from a call for service, in 2021, North Middlesex had 1,853 calls for service that the OPP responded to. In 2022, that increased to 2,530, so 2,530. So approximately an increase of 700. And then year to date, to the end of June, we were at 1,603. So on track for 3,200. So approximately the same increase as we saw between 2021 and 2022. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's all bad news. Calls for service include proactive enforcement. We have switched from an organizational standpoint away from traditional handwritten paper tickets to electronic tickets that are generated within the cruiser. And a call for service is generated whenever we do a traffic stop now and issue a ticket or issue a warning. So no question that some of the increase in those numbers is a result of transferring over to an electronic ticket system. But we are seeing an increase in those numbers. So getting into specifics, I do want to touch on a few specific areas. When you look at the report that I've provided, it includes three main categories: violent crime, property crime, as well as drug-related crime. I have provided council with the numbers from 2021 as well as 2022, so you can compare those. And I've also provided the same numbers for other municipalities, so you can have a little bit of a window into how North Middlesex looks in comparison to other municipalities within the greater Middlesex area. When I talk about violent crime, we're referring to a wide variety of different occurrences, whether that would be a homicide, sexual assaults, different types of assaults, robberies, those types of things. Between 2021 and 2022, the numbers aren't great, to be honest with you. We did see an increase. For example, in sexual assaults in 2021, there was a total of 6 throughout the calendar year. We moved on to 2022 and there's a total of 14. That's quite a notable increase. I will tell you that in all of those cases, either charges were laid or the individuals declined to move forward for a variety of different reasons and having those incidents progress through the courts, or we were unable to support the charges with sufficient evidence. And there's a wide variety as to reasons as to why those things can happen. As concerning as it is to hear that in 2022, you had 14 sexual assaults within the North Middlesex area. The good news is that none of those are unsolved. We don't have anybody out on the street committing these types of offenses that we're not aware of and have not dealt with. But I will say that for 2022, we are already at 11 calls for service in relation to sexual assaults. So we are seeing that increase continue, and that is concerning for sure. In every one of these violent crime related incidents, our major crime unit is involved. We do have detectives assigned to each of these cases, either to investigate it or to oversee them, to ensure that a high level of excellence is being done in every one of those investigations. And we'll bring specialists in if we need them to assist with those investigations. For example, folks that are very highly skilled in investigative interviewing, for example. So. Likewise, we have between 2021 and 2022, we did see an increase in the number of assaults within North Middlesex. 21 in 2021 and 31 in 2022. And again, we are seeing an increase in 2023 year to date. We're at 19 so far. So we are looking at another increase there. So when I compare these numbers to other municipalities, I do see that North Middlesex is towards the top end of the municipalities within Middlesex County. And this is something that is concerning. It is something that we are attempting to address as best possible through patrols, through education, as well as the engagement of our major crime units. As it relates to property crime, I do have some good news on this front. Although we did see quite notable increases between 2021 and 2022 in both break and enters as well as thefts, we have seen those numbers dramatically drop year to date for 2023, which is great news. And I'll give you an example. So for our thefts in 2022, we had a total of 54 over the course of the entire calendar year. Year to date, we've had 10. So quite a notable decrease in thefts occurring. And from a break and enter standpoint, where we had 21 last year, we're now down to 6 halfway through the year. So it is good to see those numbers coming down. One of the things that helps to account for that is the engagement of our street crime unit and doing focus patrols with our uniform members in those high crime units. We do have an analyst at our detachment who will pull a wide variety of statistical data as well as geographical data that allows our different specialized units to have a look and sort of see where the crime trends are occurring. We call them hotspots, and then to focus our efforts on addressing those areas. And I can tell you that that is very effective and is one of those things that I would credit with starting to see some of the property crime numbers come down. In my experience, at least in the Lambton area, reporting to police service boards for a number of years, property crime is generally towards the top of the area of concerns for the community. And that is the reason why I wanted to highlight that tonight. From a drug crime standpoint, the good news is there's very little drug crime within North Middlesex. In 2021, there was no drug-related offenses. In 2022, there was 4. But having said that, over the course of an entire calendar year, and we see those numbers come up, what that equates to is the legalization of cannabis and it being readily available to a driver in a vehicle. Without exception, that's where the possession charges that you'll see on the report, the 3 of the 4, that's what that is from. For those that aren't aware, yes, you can have marijuana cannot be readily accessible to you as the driver of the vehicle. And when we pull somebody over for a lawful reason and we find it within their reach, they get a ticket and some education for that. And it is loaded as a drug-related incident. So that is why you're seeing that increase there. I won't say that cannabis readily available in a vehicle is minor, but it is most certainly not trafficking in fentanyl or cocaine. I would look at it through the lens of a less severe drug-related crime, if I could say it that way. Speaking about traffic safety for a few minutes, motor vehicle collisions over the course of the last 2 years, we have seen a slight increase. Property damage related collisions increased marginally. We did see personal injury collisions decrease. And unfortunately, in 2022, there was 2 fatal motor vehicle collisions within North Middlesex, where there were none in 2021. From an overall total standpoint, In 2022, there was 117 total motor vehicle collisions within North Middlesex. To put that in perspective, halfway through the year, we're at 49. So a little bit below where those numbers were, which is good news. When you look at collisions across the province from a provincial standpoint, I can tell you that in all categories of collisions, whether it's just property damage, personal injury, or fatalities, in every one of those categories, collisions are up across the province. What we refer to as the big four factors leading to serious injury or fatal motor vehicle collisions: alcohol or drug involvement, lack of seatbelts, excessive speed, and distracted driving. Those are the four main factors that account for the vast majority of those collisions. The involvement of those four factors is also up significantly across the province. So when I see that year to date, our numbers in North Middlesex have dropped, that is actually really good news through the lens of provincially. Some more good news. In 2022, 15 impaired drivers were arrested in North Middlesex. We have arrested 3 so far in 2023. Even better news. I mean, if you just look at it through the lens of, okay, well, you know, is that traffic stops? Is that ride? Our officers in 2022 did 71 specific ride incidents throughout North Middlesex. We've already done 74 this year, so we're on track to more than double that. Our enforcement numbers are also up. 415 total tickets during the 2022 calendar year. We're already up to 371 by the end of June. So again, a notable increase in the amount of actual enforcement that's being done within the municipality. When I look at the increased enforcement and the increase of ride and the decrease in impaireds, I see that as a very good thing. We're out there more, we're stopping more cars, we're interacting with more people, and we're finding less people driving. So very good news for the community. The last thing that I would like to touch upon, pending any questions, is the 2 focus patrols that I've been asked to generate to date. The first, I already mentioned it a little bit with regards to aggressive driving through the construction zone. That one started on the 28th of May. That will continue through to the end of the summer, and we will assess our efforts at that point as to whether it needs to continue. A tremendous amount of enforcement and education has been done in relation to people speeding through the construction zones. And hopefully we are starting to see a reduction within the community and maybe some less complaints coming in about that. And then the one that I mentioned yesterday in relation to stop signs on John Street, that has already been messaged out to all of our officers with a specific focus for our zone officers as well as our traffic members to give these concerns due attention. Things like running a stop sign in the summertime when kids are out on bicycles, they're out having fun with their friends, or maybe not paying attention to what's going on around them. That's really concerning for me. That's something that needs to be taken very, very seriously. And I can assure you that it will be. So that's my report for this evening. Pending any questions, which I would welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inspector. So council questions, comments? Councillor Irwin, then Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Inspector. I appreciate the report. A question and a comment. So my first question deals with sexual assault. Can you tell us, and it is up, obviously, as you said, sadly, so how much of that is intimate partner violence?
I would actually have to go through each individual item to break that down for you, Councillor. The honest answer is I'm not sure. From an overall trend standpoint of typically what we will see is that a high percentage of that is intimate partner and dealing with younger folks who not necessarily in a like a marriage or that type of thing, but boyfriend, girlfriend, And quite often within their teams, that would probably be the area where we see that the most.
And an unrelated additional question. Thank you, your worship. So council is going to be later tonight, going to be looking at a three-way stop. That's not my question in Elsa Craig, but that's led to a Facebook chat post coming up on Elsa Craig Village Association. I was just counting them. If I was looking at the phone, it was not that I wasn't interested in you. There's 126 posts since the agenda went out, titled Petty Street / Queen Street Speedway, related to the three-way stop we're putting on a side, potentially going to investigate putting on a side street, I should say. And that is a concern in our community. When I went door to door campaigning in the fall, one of the biggest issues I heard was just how fast between downtown Elsa Craig, Elginfield Road, out Petty Street south towards Strathroy, it is. And was really surprised to see in the course of 3 days, 126 separate posts on the village Facebook site relating to speed and safety in that area. And I just want to make you aware. I'm not sure if you have heard this before or aware of it. It is a concern in our community. It is a truck route. People tend to speed up quickly as they leave the village. There has been several years ago, a child killed on that street. And so there's a lot of concern in our community. Yeah, Queen Street. Where Queen Street.
This is exactly
Councillor Connellson, and then Councillor Nerder.
Read your report with great interest, Inspector. Thank you very much for it. My question is similar to Councillor Irwin's question in terms of the assaults and the violent crimes, property offenses and assaults and whatnot. Now, there's an increase in the number of occurrences, but my question is that attributed to multiple offenses by limited number of people, or is it more people committing offenses?
no, that's not when you look at those numbers. So certainly within
Councillor Nerda.
then I guess this question kind of ties into the last. So these property crimes, are they caused by repeat offenders? Or can you tell us that?
Oh, thank you. Specific to these, I don't know that. Again, speaking in general terms, having been doing this for many years, I can tell you that every community has their prolific property crime individuals. I can tell you that when certain individuals get out of jail and are not in custody, we will see our property crime spike. They will go into custody and will drop. Specific to these, I don't know that, but I certainly, it would be inconsistent with what I've seen everywhere else that I've worked, if that was not the case.
And I guess what is being done to address that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
Seems it's a catch and release kind of program.
You mean with regard to
The
folks being
offender.
released? Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes in relation to that. Specifically, right now, the focus is on violent offenders who are on judicial release after committing very serious violent crimes, including firearms. This really came into the spotlight last December when Constable Prashala was killed in Haldimand County. And our commissioner has been actively lobbying both the provincial and federal government for bail reform since that time. Because the sad truth is that we deal with the same folks again and again and again, and many of whom are on conditions not to be in possession of weapons, not to be in possession of break and enter tools, not to be in possession of a vehicle. Yeah, it's, but ultimately this, that's a political decision as to whether or not they want to change the bail system. And in fairness, it's a source of frustration for our members. We'll have individuals who our members will work very, very hard to apprehend, hold them for a bail hearing, and then, hours later, they're back out on the street recommitting. It's a challenge when that happens, and it's discouraging at times too.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor, apologies.
Thank you, Worshipful Master, to Inspector Stewart. Years ago, and I'm pretty sure it's still available, there was such a thing as a communications officer and even an education officer that would maybe come out, be directed, say, through the local Lions Club to come out and talk to seniors as to some of the online fraud that's going on. Is that number one still available? Could a speaker come out? Do you have one through your detachment?
We do indeed. We call it our community services officer. His name is Jeff Clare. And Jeff does a wide variety of things. He's a media officer, so he's the individual that you'll see oftentimes in social media. But he is also our educational officer. So he will come out, and it's a perfect example of doing awareness for some of the older folks in the community on elder abuse, on some of the grandparent frauds and scams that are going on. And it's really creating that awareness in the community is what's critical to folks not being victimized. And certainly if you have either an event you would like Constable Hare to come out to, or if you'd like him to coordinate something, he would be most pleased to do that.
He won't initiate it. We have to say Lions Club would get a contact him in order to come. It's not something, okay, I'm going to come into your area and do this like on a certain date, or is it?
Absolutely.
Okay, he will, without any action, just say, I'll put a program on in North Middlesex here saying either Park Hill, maybe we're in Elster Craig another year, but that's the question. I didn't know whether we had to initiate it or you guys.
Well, I think it works both ways.
Okay.
Certainly, if there is a desire for it within the community and it comes across my desk, then we'll make it happen for sure. From a proactive standpoint, and he will put those in place. But really, I think the value comes when the community is asking for it for a specific area, because then we know that there's the need in that particular area for it and the desire for it, as opposed to just arbitrarily setting it up. So, yep.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much, Inspector, for coming and visiting us. Look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. Likewise, I appreciate it. And if I could just one closing remark, if I could, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
We talk about the accessibility and the accountability piece. Not something that you need to get back to me on today by any means. But if you want to have some discussion about what you would like to see from me moving forward, a report every 6 months, a report once a year, I'm wide open to that. And so for your consideration. So
Thank you very
just
much.
let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item of business is a report from the planner on the plan of subdivision Westwood Meadows 39 TNM 2201. Stephanie.
Thank you.
I think we're looking for possibly somebody joining us on Zoom. Natalie, is that right? No? Okay.
The purpose and effect of the draft plan of subdivision that's up on the screen in front of you is to create 98 lots for single detached dwellings and 10 medium density blocks containing a cumulative total of 66 street facing townhome units, 1 block for a future road connection, 1 block for a stormwater management facility, and 3 new public roads. Access is proposed from the extension of Park Street and Duke Street, as well as from Duchess Ave. The purpose of the rezoning application is to change the zoning of lots 1 to 33 and 78 to 98 from the future development zone to the residential density exception zone for some site-specific zoning standards. Additionally, lots 34 to 77 to the residential density 1 exception 21 zone, and blocks 99 to 109, which is the medium density development, to the residential density 2 site-specific zone category. And lastly, block 110, which is the stormwater management facility, to the Parks and Recreation exception zone in order to permit the stormwater management pond, recreational trail, and the ability to have room for a parkette. As council may recall, the public meeting for the plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment application were held in January 18th of this year. And based on the comments received from staff, the public, as well as council, the draft plan was revised from its original submission. And the main revisions since the original submission include the number of single detached dwelling lots has reduced from 103 to 98. The number of medium density blocks increased from 2 larger blocks that would require a subsequent site plan control application to instead 10 different medium density blocks with fewer than 10 units to negate the need for a subsequent site plan application. And as a result, the number of townhomes have increased from 50 to 66. Additionally, a recreational trail has been proposed within the stormwater management block. And I'm just going to change the map for you. It has a bit more detail, so it is a busier map, but on this, oh, there we go. Just give it a moment. So on this map in front of you, there is details in regards to the trail. If you're able to follow my cursor, it has some connectivity. There are sidewalks that have been added on the north end of Duchess Ave. There's existing facilities down Duke Street, so it has connectivity to the remainder of the community. So I'll leave that up there. And certainly when we get to questioning, if council requires any zooming in, just let me know. In terms of public consultation, so Zelenka Priamo, who is the planning consultant on the file, held a public open house via Zoom in December of 2022. Fewer than 10 members of the public attended the meeting, and questions and concerns raised included, but not limited to, construction and phasing of the development, traffic impacts and calming measures, visitor parking, parkland, tree removal, reduced zoning standards and lot size, and infrastructure capacity. Similarly, at the statutory public meeting, as mentioned, held in January of this year, there were 3 members of the public who provided verbal comments at the public meeting, as well as 3 written submissions were received and have been included on the agenda for council's reference. So I'm going to take a few minutes now to go over those public comments that were received and provide a bit of a response on how they've been further looked into subsequent to the public meeting. So the first area that concerns were raised were in regards to the land use compatibility And that was from Lafarge Canada Inc. in regards to the industrial lands and proposed residential development. So in terms of a staff response, a land use compatibility study was provided as part of the application submission, and staff did review Lafarge, their comments received, and one of them was to undergo a peer review of the study that was completed. So that has been completed to date. And the study provided recommended mitigation measures that will address land use compatibility in regards to noise and dust, including noise warning clauses within the subdivision agreement, air and ventilation, AC units within residential units, some acoustical barriers and backyard fencing, and the recommended draft plan conditions, which are attached to the planning report this evening, does require that any mitigation measures included within the land use compatibility study be incorporated within the subdivision agreement to the satisfaction of the municipality. So certainly this was top of mind coming out of our last council meeting. And I will say we don't have all the answers yet, but it'll be further refined working through the draft plan conditions and subsequently the subdivision agreement as well. In terms of traffic and road impacts, concerns were raised in regards to traffic and existing roads being able to accommodate traffic and street parking. Subsequent to the public meeting, an updated traffic impact brief has been submitted as part of the submission materials, which does detail estimated traffic counts, anticipated routes of traffic, and estimated destinations as a result of the proposed development. And recommended draft plan conditions, again, will require the implementation of any required traffic measures as a result of the development. In terms of density and built form, concerns were raised in regards to the proposed density of the site, including the proposed townhomes. And in response, the provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan permit residential growth within settlement areas. And a variety of housing options are encouraged to meet the current needs and future socioeconomic demographics of the community. The location of the development is within the settlement area of Park Hill and abuts existing residential built up area of Park Hill to the east, maintaining orderly and appropriate growth within the settlement area. And the overall density of the proposal of both the singles and the townhomes is 18 residential units per hectare, which does maintain the requirements of the official plan and is aligned with contemporary development patterns of today. We are seeing across the county lots that may be more narrow than what has traditionally been considered within the communities. In terms of pedestrian connectivity, concerns are raised in regards to connectivity via sidewalk through development proposal to the rest of the community. And as mentioned on the screen in front of you, there is the sidewalk being proposed throughout the new plan of subdivision with connectivity to the existing rest of the built up area of Park Hill. And also in terms of sidewalks, this is a item that is listed to be looked at through a draft plan condition within the subdivision agreement again. In terms of infrastructure capacity, concerns were raised in regards to the capacity of the sanitary lagoons and the ability for the proposed development to tie into the system. It is noted that subsequent to the public meeting, the applicant provided an updated functional servicing report, which was peer reviewed by a third party, in this case, SEMA Plus, on behalf of the municipality. And staff are satisfied with the information provided at this time for the purposes of draft plan approval, with it being noted that further engineering and design and confirmation of adequate municipal services would be required as part of the draft plan conditions and subdivision agreement. And it's also noted that prior to final approval, the County of Middlesex would require confirmation from the municipality of North Middlesex that adequate municipal services are available. Additionally, a holding provision is recommended to be placed on the subject lands as part of the rezoning application to preventing homes, from being constructed until adequate servicing becomes available. In terms of amenity space and tree retention, concerns are raised in regards to outdoor amenity space for the development. Additionally, concerns are raised in regards to removal of existing trees within the unopened road allowances and development site. So subsequent to the public meeting, the applicant revised the draft plan to include a recreational trail. Again, that detail is up on the screen in front of you. And in the southern portion along the roundabout, there is some unopened use space that could be looked at as a potential future parkette, but that detail has not been provided at this point in time. It is also noted within the draft plan conditions, just the standard draft plan condition, that 5% of the land needs to be dedicated to parkland dedication or cash in lieu. That has also been included. And in terms of, I think, private amenity space, it's important to touch upon that the applicant has not requested any rear yard setback deficiencies, meaning that appropriate rear yard amenity space is capable of being provided for each residential unit. So they're maintaining that zoning setback. It's also noted that as part of the submission materials, the applicant has submitted a tree and arborist preservation plan, which has been included on the agenda. So it does identify all the trees within the area and includes mapping on which is to be preserved and which has to be removed as part of the development. So that's available on the agenda. And lastly, the last concern that was received was in regards to Bill 23, which was the new legislation that came into place in regards to changes to the Development Charges Act. So in response, the recommended draft plan conditions requires that development charges, of course, be provided, and that would be based upon the provincial framework at the time, in accordance to the Development Charges Act. The report also includes all agency circulation comments that were received through the public circulation process, but no additional comments were received for this meeting this evening. So the provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan all encourage development within settlement area boundaries on full municipal services. The subject lands are located within the settlement area of Park Hill and will be fully serviced with municipal infrastructure. Staff are of the opinion that the development is proposed to be located adjacent to an existing built-up area, again to the east, and has compact form, a mix of residential uses and densities that allow for efficient use of the land. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal will contribute to diversifying the types of housing available within the settlement area of Park Hill by offering single detached dwelling lots of differing sizes, as well as street-facing townhomes. In terms of scale and massing, both the R1 and R2 zones permit a maximum height of 10.5 meters, which can allow for a 2-story building. The same height provisions apply to the existing single detached dwellings along Duchess Ave, Park Street, Center Street, Duke Street, and Prince Street. In regards to buffering, the road allowance being Duchess Ave itself, as well as the setbacks from property lines, separates the townhouse dwellings from the single detached dwellings on the east side of Duchess Ave. And it is also noted as part of the recommended draft plan conditions, a landscaping plan will be required as part of the municipal right-of-way design. Staff are of the opinion that the requested site-specific provisions for the zoning will result in some lots that are narrower in appearance and contain less landscape open space in comparison to existing lots in Park Hill. However, maintain an appropriate level of density. As mentioned, it is in line with our official plan criteria, as well as development trends throughout Middlesex County, and contribute to a diverse housing stock as per the official plan direction. As part of the rezoning for the single detached dwelling, staff do recommend that a minimum distance between driveways on two separate lots is 6 meters in order to accommodate on-street parking between neighboring driveways. Staff have reviewed the concept plan provided for the medium density blocks. Again, the more detailed plan is up on the screen in front of you, and are satisfied that the requested site-specific zoning will result in appropriate residential dwelling lots. Staff are the opinion that the proposed park and rec zone for the establishment of the storm pond and recreational trail and potential future parkette is considered to be appropriate and will result in some additional recreational space to serve the new and existing community of Park Hill. As part of the rezoning application, staff recommends holding provision apply to the lands to address servicing and requiring a subdivision agreement. So it is recommended that the plan of subdivision and draft plan conditions be endorsed and forwarded to the County of Middlesex for consideration and approval, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Questions from council? Councillor Daigle and Councillor Pinelson.
I know you mentioned that the parkland dedication or 5% or whatever. Is it this piece of land that storm management pond is going on?
Through the mayor to the councillor, the storm pond itself would not be included within the 5%, which is reflected in the draft plan condition. We will continue to work with the applicant to determine the extent of the trail network and the parkette and what percentage that would take up for the property. So that analysis has not been completed yet, but the remainder of that would be received in cash in lieu.
Thank you. And the other question I have on the other end of the property, there was some concern that the homes were coming close to Beechwood elevators and the Lafarge plant. Has any thought been given to that spread? I think the 400 meters was one of the numbers, but 800 was the recommended one for those kind of industries.
So through the mayor to the councillor, there is a land use compatibility study that was completed by the applicant's consulting engineer, which was Dylan. That has been included on the agenda package, and there were several mitigation measures required from that study. In particular, for that property line that does abut the industrial lands, there was some suggested recommendations in regards to acoustical barriers along that area, as well as some backyard fencing that would assist with that land use compatibility. But as mentioned, the municipality did also receive a peer review. And so those details will continue to be refined through the draft plan condition and subdivision agreement process. Thank you.
Those extra measures like the fencing or sound reduction, different things, at whose expense?
So through the mayor to the councillor, that would be, from my understanding, contained on the development land property. So the expense of the developer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we go to the next question, I understand that our applicant has joined us online. So if you can hear me all right, is there anything you'd like to add at this point?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I wanted to attend to be here to answer any questions if necessary by council. But Stephanie did do a good background, so I'm satisfied with staff's report.
Okay, thanks, Caitlin. Councillor Canellis.
Thank you, Mayor Rob, and I'm pleased that the applicant has joined us. Portion of my question anyway. I attended the site, or proposed site, just the other day. By a concerned neighbor invited me over, and he showed me a stake that the applicant had installed to the west of the development, where they intend to build a fence, which is virtually right on top of municipal drain and well within the road, unopened road allowance. At what point will those details be mitigated to ensure that that does not occur?
Through the mayor to the councillor, your questions in regard to fencing in particular?
Well, fencing, yes, because fencing, my understanding, could not be constructed on top of a municipal drain or within close proximity. And so that would indicate that it might be in their backyard, a proposed backyard, but the fence cannot be located there on top of a municipal drain or in a road allowance.
So as the draft plan conditions, there is a requirement for the subdivision agreement. And specifically, it speaks to the need for addressing landscaping. Fencing in particular is named in that condition. So certainly that level of detail will again continue to be worked on. And if that particular concern can be brought to staff's attention, certainly we'd be happy to work with the applicant to look at the drain in particular and then the location of that fencing.
Well, yes, because it would impact on the size of the backyard, right? It would. Because the fence has to be moved more easterly from the westerly point where they proposed to put it, which is on top of the municipal drain, it would decrease the size of the backyard.
Through the mayor to the councillor, I think this is a very detailed question, so I would need to chat with you, I think maybe one-on-one to look at exactly what you're looking for. This is the draft plan conditions. This is the draft plan of subdivision is going to establish the building outlines in terms of the property line location. It may not depict fencing location.
Well, that's my question, is property line, but we can continue this conversation later.
Okay. All right. Is there any other questions any other questions on this application? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us. What is council's wish? Don't all move at once.
Yeah, Rob, I'm just questioning whether we should defer a decision on this until we have a better understanding of the size of the westerly properties, where the fence and the road allowance and municipal drain all come into play. I realize it's a complex question that maybe the information I'm providing is inadequate for a proper response, but I don't want to approve or grant something that I'm not really clear what we're granting.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask our CAO to speak.
I can't speak specifically to this property, but what I can say is that when you're dealing with a plan of subdivision like this, it doesn't change the fact of where the ownership lines are based on a municipal drain. So a municipal drain may go through, but the property lines stay. You can't put a fence on a municipal drain, but that doesn't change the ownership. So if your concern is their backyards would be smaller, they're really not smaller. Maybe the fences may have to because of the drain, but the land is still owned. So if that is your question, and certainly dealing with the location of a fence on or around a municipal drain is something that would be dealt with even separate from the planning application itself.
And I agree with you, except when the municipal drain is in an unopened road allowance, because the road allowance is not part of that property, correct?
Correct. And certainly nothing about, if I may, your worship,
Yep.
Nothing about this planning application will change that. If they don't own the road allowance, which obviously they would not gain ownership through this process or lose it. They either own it or not at this point in time. So it's the location of the fence and the ownership line is where it is today and doesn't change for this application.
But it may impact on what their proposed size of the property lots are, correct? It may.
I think the size, to your worship, maybe it is a better question taken offline. I'm not sure I'm helping the situation.
Okay. Yeah, whether we approve it or not, the property line is the property. But as you say, that's not the fence. That's not necessarily the fence. Yes, it doesn't. So you're saying to defer it for what reason? Like, what are you looking
Well,
at this point? Because we're not at a point of,
well, I'm in support of the subdivision as long as it isn't built on top of our road allowance or our municipal drain. That's the only answer I'm looking for, to guarantee that it will not impact our road allowance or municipal drain. That's it.
This application, if I may, your worship, cannot take ownership of our road allowance and cannot build on top of a municipal drain, period.
okay, moved by Councillor Cornelison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Our next is a report from Executive Assistant HR Coordinator for the Council Benefit Insurance.
Mayor and members of council, the recommendation before you is that council direct staff on how to proceed regarding drug, dental, and extended health benefits for council members through the company benefit plan, as well as 24-hour accident insurance coverage through our municipal insurance carrier. Council had asked that this be brought, it was brought earlier on this year about the extended health and drug and dental benefits, at which time it was kind of shut down, but they asked for it to be brought back to council, as well as the 24 accident insurance coverage, which as a delegation at the June 7th meeting was brought forward by our insurance carrier. So this information is the same as before as it relates to the extended health, drug and dental. It would be offered on a mandatory basis. It would be all of council, with the exception of there is an age limit of 70. So if you are over 70, or if you will become 70 during the term, it would terminate at the age of 70. As well as you may opt out if you have similar coverage elsewhere. And then everyone else would have to participate. So it does come with a cost. Single, just again, we would have to get specifics, but just kind of based on 2023 rates for staff now. Single is $236 and change a month, and family $529 and change a month. And the employer must pay at least 50% of the premium. Not saying that it could be 100% covered by the municipality, but that the municipality would have to pay at least 50% if it was cost share. With respect, we did include these together, the accidental 24-hour coverage. It is an affordable benefit to council. It's $830 annually, and it's up to the age of 80, actually. So a little bit better, and that would, it's accidental insurance, and it would be for all members of council, and the breakdowns on the report, if there's any further questions on that.
All right, questions, comments from council?
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead, Estelle.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Your Worship. Just to provide a little bit of clarification, because I have had questions from members of council in regards to this. So the in regards to the dental extended health benefits, the word mandatory is being used, and that means that all members of council must adhere and participate to the group plan unless one of the two following applies. One, that they can prove that they have benefits elsewhere. So if your spouse has coverage elsewhere and you're already covered and you don't want to participate in this, you can opt out. The second is if you are over the age of 70, you are not eligible. So that's a clarification for that portion of it. The clarification for the 24/7 coverage is right now within our insurance policy, members of council are covered while on municipality business. They are not covered if something happens to them while they're taking down a tree in their backyard. If we get this 24/7 coverage, they would be covered. So those are the two clarifications included in those two plans.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Irwin.
Just make it clear, because I heard two things. It's mandatory unless you're 70, or it's mandatory unless you're turning 70 in the term of council. Which one is it?
so if you are not 70 when it's brought, if council decides to go for this
Okay.
option, then it would be mandatory.
Until you're
but it would
70.
terminate at
At 70.
no different than.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Nerda.
So I absolutely think that we should look into the accidental 24-hour coverage. It is only $830 a year for all members of council. And I do like the idea of councils having health insurance through the municipality. I think not only one, I would benefit from it myself, but I'm just saying that down the road, other younger members of council may also want coverage, and what a way to provide an extra perk for council. So instead of looking what it can do for me today, it provides coverage, and it provides an incentive to the would-be new people coming on to council.
Councilor Canales.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I guess my question has to do with the age exclusion. And clearly I would not qualify for this benefit, if you will. So at least my question, I intend to abstain from the vote, given that I would not qualify and would be of no benefit to me. And I don't know that I should impose my decision on the other members of council.
All right, thank you. Other comments from council? I think your Councilor Nerdy, your comment is well made. It isn't just about council at this day. It is about future council. If we want younger people to come in here, is it a benefit or a perk that would help to have people run for council and run for office? Because as you say, it wouldn't cost for everybody in this room. So it isn't just about this council here, and it is a very hard thing to do to make this decision for yourself. You know, it's like, that's one thing for council. Councilor Daigle.
Just to expand on what Adrian just said, we can't maybe go for the medical benefits, but you still can get the life insurance back up to age 80. So the
qualify for that?
24/7 coverage.
Well, yeah, that's not the point. The point for me is, do I have a right to impose my views or my views on the other remaining members of council when I don't qualify for the service for the program? That's the question I have.
But we are looking at your replacement when you decide not to run. It's for all members that sit.
Okay. More comments, questions from council? So at this, Estelle, go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. Seeing as these are two different programs, can we get decisions for each program individually?
I think maybe we should, because the one is for the accidental is age 80, correct? It's a little different. Yeah, so on the first part of it is for the benefits, and we don't have to decide tonight, I don't think, as to how much, the payment is.
If council wishes to proceed with council coverage for health and dental, what I would ask is for each individual council member to reach out to Donna and inform her as to whether or not they wish to participate. Okay. And if they do decide to opt out, to provide proof of current insurance.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilor Irwin.
I move part one, health and dental benefits for council.
Do we have a seconder? Councilor Nerda. All right. Any other discussion on it? In favor? Opposed? Abstain?
No, I have another. Are
Yeah,
you done?
What? No.
Okay,
Did you
sorry.
abstain?
No, I voted.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we had one abstain. Okay, so it is carried. All right, now carry.
I move part two. Just can't wait to move something.
Yeah,
Accidental death and dismemberment for members of council not on council business.
okay. A seconder for that. Councilor Nerda seconds that as well. Discussion on that. No, in favor? Opposed? Abstained? One abstain, 6 in favor. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Okay, next is 7.3. It is the first of our drainage. Welcome, Joanne. And this is the review of the Jennison Drain, Branch A and B, and Stebbins Drain, Branch C, and Pasco Branch tenders.
Yes, Mayor and members of council, in front of you is a report for the municipal drain tender results and contract award for the Jennison Drain Branch A and B. and the Stebbins Drain Branch C and Pasco Branch. So the recommendation states that council receives this report and directs staff to award the construction of the Jennison Drain Branch A and B tender to JLH Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $32,678, excluding HST, and that council receives this report and directs staff to award the construction of the Stebbins Drain Branch C and Pasco Branch tender to Van Bree Drainage and Bulldozing in the amount of $267,610.20, excluding HST.
Thank you. Questions from council? Any questions on this? We have a recommendation in front of us. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Cornelison. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Carry on. Next one is 7.4, the review of the proposal for municipal drain maintenance.
Again, Mayor and members of council, in front of you is a report for the request for municipal drain maintenance received and to appoint the engineer for the Prance Drain. The recommendation states that council received the request for the municipal drain maintenance under Section 74 of the Drainage Act, and that council appoints RDOB and Engineering Incorporated as engineer to the Prance Drain project under 76.1 of the Drainage Act.
Any questions? We have a recommendation. Councillor Keo, Councillor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. 7.5 is a request for improvement of the Van Massenhoven Drain Branch G.
So again, Mayor and members of council, in front of you is a report for the request for drain improvement received and appoint the engineer for the Van Massenhoven Drain Branch G. And the recommendation states that council receives a notice of request for the drain improvement for the Van Massenhoven Drain Branch G under Section 78 of the Drainage Act, and that council appoints RDOB and Engineering Incorporated as engineer to the Van Massenhoven Drain Branch G project.
Questions? Seeing none, a recommendation in front of us. Councillor Keo, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. 7.6 is the review of proposal for municipal drain maintenance.
Again, Mayor and members of council, in front of you is a report for the review of requests for proposal municipal drain number 4 of 2023 for the municipal drain maintenance and contract award for the Hutchison Drain Extension and the Bullock Drain. So the recommendation states that council receive this report and direct staff to award contract MD number 4 of 2023 for the maintenance of the Hutchison Drain Extension and the Bullock Drain to C. Robert Robinson Contracting Limited in the amount of $40,000, 346, excluding HST, and the spot clean out in the amount of $5 per meter, excluding HST.
Questions? No? Recommendation? Councillor Daigle? Councillor Keo, all in favor? Carried. And you're still here, right?
I am.
One more.
And Mayor and members of council, in front of you is a report for drainage works not required for the Dewar Thompson and 16 concession drains. My recommendation states that council receive this report and direct staff not to proceed further with the drainage works on the Dewar Thompson and the 16 concession drain as per Section 40 of the Drainage Act. And that the engineering fees of $280 plus HST for a total of $316.40 be assessed to the landowner that made the original request.
Any questions? Recommendation in front of us. Councillor Cornelison, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Joanne. At least looks like you've been busy anyways. All right. Our next report is from the Public Works in Bridge 34, repair quotation. The stuff's falling down. Sorry, don't listen to them, Vance. Go ahead whenever you're.
Good evening, your worship, members of council. I have a report here before you with respect to bridge number 34 on New Ontario Road. And essentially, the recommendation here is that council accept the lump sum quotation received from WG Kelly Construction to repair the bridge number 34 at a total cost of $99,785 excluding HST. And that mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract with WG Kelly Construction for the repair. Essentially, the Public Works, as I have here and written in the report, the Public Works Division has engaged Sprete and Associates, engineers and architects, to source a qualified contractor to repair Bridge 34. And they're the firm that conduct our biannual OSIM inspections for all of our bridges. So essentially, a bit of background, you may recall, we discovered that we had a bridge deck failure in March of 2023. And the council was provided an estimate of $80,000 to repair that. So I'm happy to take any other questions with respect to the report. And that is here before you.
These are questions from council on this. Councilor Pinellas.
Vance, what's the overall condition of the bridge, given that we're going to invest $100,000 in it? What's the lifespan expectancy of this bridge going forward?
Through your worship, although I don't necessarily have a definite number of years with respect to its longevity, however, being on site with the engineer during the inspection, he definitely recommended that the repair take place and that we extend the life of the bridge as opposed to, replacing the bridge or closing the bridge or be faced with those major decisions.
So the bridge has been closed since March, is that correct?
Through your worship, that's correct.
Has there been any concerns expressed about the traveling along that road with the road closed? Has anyone got any concerns from citizens?
Through your worship, not that I'm aware of. However, just through discussion with my operators and with some farmers, they would be concerned if the bridge were not to reopen. It is an inconvenience with respect to its access point through to Elsa Craig for sure.
Thank you. Councilor Keogh, then Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mayor. Vance, earlier when this was brought forward, we had talked about possibly lowering the weight rating. Is that still an option on that bridge, or will it, can that be reestablished, what its weight rating is after this repair?
Through your worship, yes. We'll have the engineers review that again, and after the repair is done, if necessary, we will lower the we can, and the engineer I would submit would recommend that we could possibly lower the tonnage of that structure. But I would wait until that repair is completed before we
before we go down that avenue.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just like to make a comment that I have had several ratepayers in the area saying that they would certainly like to see that bridge repaired. More so just the fact of personal vehicle, accommodating personal vehicle, not farm equipment or anything like that, but it does certainly shorten the route to Elsa Craig.
Thank you. Councilor Daigle.
Just to clarify too, I've had farmers come to me about it too, saying it's changed how they have to farm because of the distance they have to go through town now empty and different things to get around.
Yeah, I think probably the questions from residents were probably directed more towards the council than to staff on this one because of, I've received some as well. Any other comments, questions on this? I have one, and just the money would come from gas tax. Is that right, Estelle?
Yes, it is correct, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? If not, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councilor Daigle, seconded by Councilor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Vance.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Essentially, the next report that I have here before you is essentially is a stop sign request for Annie Ada Shipley and Craig Street in Elsa Craig. And basically, the recommendation here is that this report be received for information, and also that council direct staff to conduct traffic counts to evaluate whether all stop control is warranted at the intersection of Aniata Shipley Street and Craig Street in Elsa Craig in accordance with the guidelines outlined in Ontario Traffic Manual Book 5 regulatory signs.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Irwin?
My only caveat on that would be when the traffic study occurs. Street is used more in the fall, winter, and spring than the summer. And the other issue is in the fall to spring, it is a major walkway for children who go down the street to Queen Street for the bus stops. So there's a couple of issues there that we have to take in consideration when we do the traffic.
Through your worship, those are excellent comments, and we would definitely be conducting the traffic counts where the counts would be most representative of the activities at that intersection. In the report, I've essentially quoted some sections out of Book 5 for your consideration, just to let you know what would be involved with respect to traffic counts and limits. And yeah.
Okay, any other comments, questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Irwin, seconded by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
And there's the next one is on the Elsa Craig transfer.
Good evening, council. Through the mayor, this report on the review of potential Elsa Craig waste transfer station was initiated from a request at a previous council meeting where council inquired as to whether it'd be possible to create a new waste transfer facility in Elsa Craig. The report provides a brief overview of the existing transfer station in the town of Park Hill, located at 395 Victoria Street. This facility is open one Saturday morning per month year round and 2 Wednesday afternoons per month from April to December. The existing facility in Park Hill accepts waste material at a rate of $10 per cubic yard, and there are restrictions on the type of material permitted. With respect to creating a new waste transfer facility, these types of facilities are subject to Part 5 of the Environmental Protection Act and the regulations made under the Act. Staff anticipates that creation of a new site would be complex, multi-step process, and a high-level overview of what that process would be is provided within the report. It's difficult to estimate what the total cost of creating a new facility would be. However, staff would expect the cost may be in the range of a couple $100,000 to a few $1 million. These costs would reflect the required engineering and environmental studies and design work, as well as the need for property and construction of the facility. Overall, staff feel that residents within the municipality are provided with a good level of service by the existing waste transfer facility in Park Hill. And this facility is within a reasonable proximity to the rest of the municipality. Creation of a new waste transfer facility would be a significant undertaking with significant costs and effort for staff. So for those reasons, the recommendation before you is that council does not proceed with plans for a new transfer station in Elsa Craig. Thank you. I can answer any questions.
Thanks, Jaden. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Irwin.
Just a comment. So I'm the manager of infrastructure and I chatted before the council meeting. And although I'm not quite sure about the numbers, I do respect his opinion on the not being financially viable at this time. So, but I do have to say that there will be concerns around increasing dumping by residents of yard waste, et cetera, in the community. It is increasing. As the community grows, it will increase. New residents don't have pickup trucks or other vehicles to transport waste. So at some point, we need to look at a solution as council on how to handle this issue, especially with the new 375 unit subdivision coming into the community and so forth. So maybe this isn't the solution. There will be a need for a solution in the future of some sort.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? So I have to say, I agree with your recommendation. But my question off of this is, our transfer station is only open one Saturday a month. What are the possibilities of having our transfer station opened more than one Saturday a month? I think the 2 Wednesdays is reasonable, but I know if you go there on a Saturday, it's usually a pretty good lineup. So is it possible? And I don't know if we can have an outside person just man the transfer station as we used to. I don't know with the union agreement or union, I don't know what that'll do, but can we have that open more than one Saturday? That would be my, at least a compromise at this time that I would think. I don't know how the rest of council feels that way, but that was just my comment. Councilor Keel.
I would tend to agree with you, Mayor Ropp, if possibly we could have 2 Saturdays a month during the peak, like January, February, and, you know, maybe open 1 Saturday in March, but get back to, or initiate 2 Saturdays a month. With maybe certainly cut down the lineup on the 1 Saturday a month.
Councilor Canales.
Agreed, Mayor Rupp, as you will recall, when you had the discussion to shorten, to reduce the number of days a while back, I expressed concern at that time about the availability of transfer station.
Yeah, I do remember you did. And maybe that's something staff can go back and have a look and come back to us. Let us know if that's a possibility.
Certainly through you, we can report back on that, on the operational ability to do that, to add the additional Saturday during the more spring. to
Yeah,
summer period.
spring, summer. That's right. Spring, from summer, early fall, I think is the. Yes. Okay, so right now we have a recommendation in front of us not to have, what's it read? Not to have a transfer station at this time. Moved by Councilor Daigle, second by Councilor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. That one hurt just a little bit, eh?
Your worship, I respect the manager of infrastructure's professional advice, but we disagree on the upscale price of this, but that's okay.
Okay. Okay, now we have another large report coming up. So a report from the manager of infrastructure on Parker Lagoon and wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you, and through the mayor. Yeah, this is a large report, a lot of information in here. So the purpose of this report is to provide a detailed information update to council on several topics pertaining to the wastewater treatment in the town of Park Hill. The main topics covered in the report are the state of the existing Park Hill sewage lagoon and an estimate of the current rated capacity of the facility, an overview of the current and future developments in Park Hill, a status update on the new proposed wastewater treatment plant, including a summary of a recent financial analysis for the plant, and an overview of other related projects and initiatives. So in the town of Park Hill, wastewater treatment is currently provided within the Park Hill sewage lagoon facility located north of town on Park Hill Drive. Most members of council had a chance to see the lagoons earlier this year when we did a tour. And this facility was constructed in the late 1970s. Over the past several years, the lagoons have been observed to be nearing their capacity, and in the past it became apparent to the municipality that an upgrade would be required to accommodate all the growth and development within Park Hill. In 2018 and 2019, a municipal class environmental assessment was completed to identify the preferred design for a new wastewater treatment facility in Park Hill. And the final recommendation of the study was that a new mechanical wastewater treatment plant should be constructed on the existing lagoon property. Until the new plant is constructed and operational, the existing lagoons will continue to be used for wastewater treatment. So with respect to the existing lagoons, based on some recent engineering analyses, the municipality has learned that there is less wastewater treatment capacity available than the value that we had previously assumed. And the two main factors that affect the amount of capacity available are net water balance, and that is basically taking into consideration the additional flows that the lagoon cells receive from precipitation, evaporation, and sludge accumulation within the lagoon cells. So taking these factors into consideration, our current best estimate is that the capacity of the lagoon is approximately 647 cubic meters per day. And our current average daily flow over the last 5 years has been 604 cubic meters a day, which represents 93% of our estimated capacity. Given this new information, the municipality has been very cautious to ensure that we are not overcommitting wastewater treatment capacity that we do not have available. As such, for large-scale developments, such as subdivisions and townhouse developments, staff have imposed conditions and holding provisions to prevent those developments from connecting into the sanitary collection system until the necessary capacity has been confirmed. Small scale single lot developments have been allowed to proceed at this time on a case by case basis, and the net effect on the lagoon is minimal. Within the report, a list of the ongoing developments in Park Hill is provided for council's reference. Discussions with these developers have been ongoing, and following tonight's meeting, staff recommend that these conversations continue with a focus on front-end financing for the future wastewater treatment plant. With respect to the new wastewater treatment plant, the project is being designed by AECOM and is currently at a 90% design level. The first phase of the new wastewater treatment plant will provide a rated capacity of 1,150 cubic meters per day. And the cost estimate for this first phase is approximately $30 million. The new plant is designed with provisions for future expansion up to a rated capacity of 2,300 cubic meters per day. The municipality received the environmental compliance approval from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks in February 2023, which provides us with the provincial environmental approval to proceed with the project. The municipality has made several requests to senior levels of government for funding assistance with the project, including 4 or 5 ministerial delegations. However, we've not been successful in securing any funding to date for this project. Once the funding has been confirmed, staff will work with AECOM to have the design finalized, prepare the construction contract documents for tendering. This spring, we completed a preliminary financial analysis with Watson & Associates economists to evaluate funding alternatives for the new plant. This analysis determined that approximately 65%, or about $20 million of the total project cost should be allocated to growth that is funded by development charges, and the remainder should be funded by non-growth sources. For the growth-related share of the plant, the municipality is planning on holding discussions with the development community to confirm the level of interest in participating in front-end financing agreements to fund the project. Without the funding assistance from developers, the municipality does not have the ability to debt finance the project, and the developments will not be able to proceed. It was also determined through Watson's analysis that municipalities should update the development charge study to properly account for the wastewater treatment plant, which means the development charges will increase by approximately $9,500 per single detached unit. The last section of the report provides some information on other related projects and initiatives related to the current wastewater treatment capacity situation in Park Hill. And I'll just highlight a couple of those items. The first one I'll highlight is potential desludging of the lagoon. The lagoon cells have never been cleaned out, and sludge accumulation in the bottom results in a loss of capacity. A large-scale cleanout of one or both of the lagoon cells may be a short-term project that can be undertaken to create capacity for new development. This will be a topic and/or project brought back to council for budget considerations. And staff are also exploring alternate funding through grants or agreements with developers for that work. The second item I'd want to highlight is inflow and infiltration and illegal sanitary connections. So working with our local aqua team, there are improvements that we can make to the collection system to reduce the amount of non-sewage water that's entering the sanitary system and taking up capacity. So staff does recommend continuing with those initiatives and working with our local aqua team to improve the system that way. In closing, the two most immediate next steps are to, one, update our development charges background study to properly account for the wastewater treatment plant project, and two, advance the discussions with the development community to pursue front-end financing agreements to secure funding for the project. Thank you, and I can answer any questions. Oh, and I'll just note as well, we do have Rod Dupuy from Aqua here who may assist with some technical questions if we get into it. Thanks.
Would you like to come up here to this desk in case there's any questions for you, Rod? Oh, you're coming up pretty quick. That's good. That's good. Yeah. No. All right. So you have a large question in front of you. Councilor Nerda, would you like to start?
Sure. So Jaden, I understand if we desludge this, it's only a short-term fix. How long does this last? 6 months? Will it buy us another year? What's the timeline?
Well, the timeline, what it would buy us, it would get us to the wastewater treatment plant, hopefully. That's still the ultimate goal, and that's what we want to get done. as a condition of that ECA, we're supposed to get that plant constructed within 5 years. So it's really, I guess, getting us to the point where we have that plant up and running. And I should note as well, the design of the new wastewater treatment plant does integrate the south cell of the existing lagoon. So there's 2 cells. So it's not like it's complete throwaway cost to do that, especially if we focus on the south cell. It would get integrated into the new design. So it might be something we have to do anyway.
Thank you.
Councilor Daigle?
The cleaning of the lagoon, will that allow for all our housing projects to proceed while we build the plant?
Through the mayor, certainly not everything, like the ultimate build outs, but I think what we would look at is creating enough capacity that we can allot some units to the various developers and working with them. And you may have seen also the item in the report about a sewage capacity allotment policy. So that would help us kind of divvy that out fairly and sustainably. So it's not enough for all of the development, but we would want to work with our developer partners to give them some capacity to grow.
Follow up?
Okay, and then in your report, you mentioned that I think it was around $19,000. It's going to be the new development charge or for lot, shall we say, for these properties. So I'm not surprised with that. We in Nairn and Elsa Craig, new lots were in 2007 were over 16,000 when the sewer project went in. But we don't have a number for what it might cost the existing households. In the prior, the one I just talked about, it was about $3,400 per household was existing to pay for their share of the upgrade. Is there some way we can get a cost estimate of that also?
Through the mayor, that is something we would develop if that was going to be a funding source potentially. So the remaining 35%, that is the non-growth component that the municipality has to come up with, would be made up from our revenue from rates, and then we can also debt finance a portion of that or potentially all of that. So we haven't worked out those numbers yet. There would be a charge to the existing residents, but it was noted in the report and one of the options presented from Watson Associates.
Carolyn, go ahead.
To your worship, I just wanted to add to that there is one funding grant application out right now that I will be working with staff on and bringing back a report to council at the next meeting with regards to an application. I'm not sure if it'll help us with the overall 30 million for the plant, but what I'm hopeful is that it might help offset some of the costs for maybe the sewage lagoon
The desludging.
desludging, and that might assist with that at the very least. I've also heard that there's another specifically infrastructure grant coming forward sometime later this year that we could also apply to, and I'm hopeful that that one might put us in a better position for receiving money specifically for the plant itself to offset that 35%.
Okay, so specifically your request to just for council, again, just your request, what you're asking.
Sure, I can read the recommendation. Like I said from the start, it is mostly a lot of information we want to get to council, so you guys are aware of the situation, but I'll just read the recommendations. So the recommendation is that this report be received for information, and that council direct staff to update the development charge background study to properly account for the Park Hill wastewater treatment plant project, and that council direct staff to continue discussions with the development community to explore front-end financing agreements for the Park Hill wastewater treatment plant, and that council direct staff to continue other projects and initiatives as summarized in the report in support of addressing the Park Hill sewage lagoon wastewater treatment capacity issue.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to Councillor Nelson and then Councillor Nerda.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jane, is there an appetite on behalf of the developers for their development charges?
through the mayor, there has been ongoing discussions for several months now. And when there was a kind of just after I started with municipality back in November, we got everybody in a room. I think a few representatives from council were there as well. And there definitely was an appetite and interest in front-end contributions to move the project forward. And we have had some recent discussions, and there's still that interest and appetite in participating to move the project forward.
Councilor Nurna.
Thank you for asking my question, Councilor.
Okay, any other questions at this time? Councilor Irwin?
So how long will it take us from engineering to completion to build a treatment plant?
Through the mayor. So like I said, the engineering design is at 90%. So it's almost finalized. I would anticipate once we have the funding secured, it would be not more than a couple months, say 6 months, to finalize the engineering design, prepare the contract documents, get it out to tender. So add maybe a month or two for that. Construction of the facility, I believe it's 1.5 to 2 years for a new facility of this sort. So all in all, say 2.5 years.
Okay, and if I can follow up?
Yes.
Thank you, your worship. And when we desludge, how long is that good for? Again, I mean, following up Councilor Nura's question, desludging will buy us how much time, especially with the new construction?
So through the mayor, desludging will buy us capacity, and the capacity, I'm not sure how quickly it accumulates, and it's been accumulating since, how long has it been? Since
76, 78, it's been accumulating.
60,000 there approximately, we think. So I think once we clean it out and create that capacity, it's going to last us until we have the plant, for sure.
I can add something, James, through your worship to Councilor Irwin. When we're talking about capacity, one of the things that we would do is we're going to desludge, say, the south cell. We can actually see our operation physically, what that looks like when it comes to our levels as well. So we can actually do an analysis. We can actually see what effects or benefits that has. And we'll actually have that data for you that we could share with council to see what that improvement is like. Because again, I discharge this cell twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. And we take our lagoon level measurements once a week throughout the whole course of the year. So if you're desludging a cell, there is going to be a benefit to that capacity, but it's hard for us to say because again, we always had conflicting reports of how much sludge is in that lagoon cell. So until it's removed and we can physically see the bottom and actually fill it back up and discharge it, we'll be able to tell you, what we have.
Thank you. Councilor Clennelson.
Thank you, Mayor Rupp. Are you sure I can go ahead?
No, I thought I was waiting for if you had another question. Go ahead.
My question is for you, Raji. You made an interesting comment there, and I'm sure you have a logical answer, but you said you can only discharge twice a year. Why can't we do it 3 times?
It comes down to is how much it's in, because when I do it in the spring, I bring it as low as I possibly can. And then when I have to allow it to fill back up, and I have to allow a lot of the flow to gain so that I'm not just flowing sludge. And of course, I don't have a lot of flow in the summer. It's reduced flows. So it takes time for that to build back up. And it's usually by October, November when I have a sufficient volume enough in that lagoon that I treat it with chemical and discharge.
Okay. But if it's full, it's full. I mean, if it gets full before that, it's full.
Well, in the winter, I'm not allowed to discharge that because it has ice. That's a requirement that I'm not allowed to do as part of the C of A. And then summer, there's just not enough water in there for me to do it. Because in the spring, I bring it right down to the bottom.
Okay.
So we're talking like an inch above the sludge.
Okay.
So it takes
that much, those months in order for it to build back up, in order for me to
Okay,
treat it and discharge it.
now I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there any other questions on this report? All right, we have recommendations in front of you, which Jaden had just said. Do we have a mover for that? Counselor Daigle, Counselor Nerd. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Jaden. Thanks, Rod. The next one, William Street pumping. Just don't go away. Jason, are you going to come up as well? I want to thank Jason Johnson from Dillon's offered to sit in here tonight as well to help to do this report. And but it's on you, Jaden, this one. I don't mean what happened is on you, it's just the report is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, your worship. So the purpose of this report is to allocate funds for the William Street pumping station upgrade and to appoint Dillon Consulting as the consulting engineer for the project. The William Street pumping station upgrade project was previously identified in the municipality's long-range capital forecast to be designed in 2024 and constructed in 2025. However, due to current and planned development in Elsa Craig and area, it has become apparent that the pumping station must be upgraded sooner than originally planned. Staff have been working with Dillon Consulting to evaluate the capacity of the existing pumping station, and Dillon has prepared a detailed work plan for the engineering design services for the necessary upgrades. Staff believe Dillon has demonstrated a very good understanding of the project, and they have the technical skills and knowledge to successfully complete the project. This upgrade would be a major one, including constructing a new wet well for the pumping station to accommodate the long-term forecasted growth. And that also would include an upgrade to the force main from the pumping station to the wastewater treatment plant. So by allocating these funds and getting the design project started, municipality can ensure that the necessary conveyance capacity is available for development in a timely manner. And thank you, and myself and Rod and Jason can answer any questions.
Questions from council? All right, Councilor Keough.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Would there have to be any upgrade to the wet well at Nairn, or is that one okay? If there was any development in the Nairn area as well.
So are you familiar with it, Jason?
Because I guess what I'm getting at is, because when it leaves Nairn's wet well, it's going to where this is going to be refurbished, correct?
That's correct. So the immediate upgrade required is at the William Street pump station. I believe the Ontario pump station will require an upgrade eventually at full build out. If the lands that we are considering in Nairn in this growth scenario are fully built out, it would also require upgrades, but I don't believe it would be to the extent that the William Street station needs upgrades, which is basically it's a full-blown replacement. Yeah.
Other questions? I have one just on the, we had budgeted for a new pump and stuff in that William Street. Do we have to still spend that money before we do this?
Through your worship, no, municipal staff and myself, with all these sanitary reviews, kind of held off on that decision to purchase that pump. And, thankfully we made the right decision there because probably gonna be undersized.
Well, that's just a drop in the bucket, but it still is a drop in the bucket. So, okay, so we don't have to do that work in the meantime. Okay,
We're not going to replace that pump at William Street.
okay, thank you. Other questions from council? No other questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councilor Irwin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Report from Manager of Recreation Facilities, a pickup truck.
Mayor Rob.
I think we
members of-
spent all our money, by the way. You should, okay, go, sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
So Mayor Rob, members of council, much like the problems Public Works experienced trying to source a pickup truck this year, I also struggled. I went out tendered for a new vehicle. The wait time wasn't as crucial for me because the truck can probably get through till the fall. Unfortunately, I only got one response back for a price, and it was significantly over what I had budgeted. The government discount we used to receive seemingly doesn't exist for dealers, I guess. Anyways, long story short, I browsed the used market for quite some time trying to find something that fit. Jay Thompson reached out for me from McDonald Motors about their parts truck. It had about 8,000, 7 to 8,000 on it at the time. And he sent me a price for it, and I felt the price was much better than anything else on the used market. So I would like to purchase that truck. That would require an increase of the capital budget by an amount of $6,000 to $51,000, as the parts truck that he priced out was $49,699.90. The specs are below for the truck. It does meet all the needs of the department. So any questions?
Questions from council? No questions from council? Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Brandon, I just do have one question that you can blame it on me for not being prepared here. Is this a mid-size pickup or is it a full-size pickup?
No, it's a full size.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a white Super Crew and it's a V6 EcoBoost. I was just a little concerned about the engine, but Jay kind of talked about it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Nelson.
I just have a comment to make, Brandon. I bought a couple of trucks off of Jay. He's always open for negotiation. Can we negotiate price a little bit or not?
I can try.
I would. He's always open.
Doesn't hurt to ask, does it? Any other questions on this? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us. What is your wish? Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor Nerda. In favor? Carried. Passing of accounts.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report in front of you outlines the municipality's expenses for the period of June 16th to July 9th, totaling $1,511,116.66. Before opening the floor to questions, I would like to share some of the questions that I have received via email. So one of the questions was the payment for $1,921 to Comprint Systems. The reference says it's elections. So the question was, what is this for? Back in May of 2023, we signed an agreement with Comprint Systems, also known as DataFix, for their involvement in our municipal elections of 2026. And the agreement stipulates installment payments for the next 4 years. This is the first installment payment for that agreement. The next question that I received, what is the expense of breaking glass in the amount of $904? That is for the purchase of 2 hard patient protection shields for the fire department. So for 2 face shields for the fire department. The next question, the check to Dealco Electric, and the reference was Elsa Craig SCADA in the amount of $17,271. That is in regards to a 2022 capital project where we were upgrading SCADA at the Elsa Craig wastewater treatment plant. And for those of you who are not aware, SCADA stands for, hold on, I have it written down here, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. So it's the software and the equipment involved in running the wastewater treatment plant. So 2022, we had a capital project to upgrade that system. Next question basically refers to the same project. It's a check made out to Aramosa Engineering for the Elsa Craig SCADA as well in the amount of $5,437.68. Aramosa Engineering is the engineering firm that's overlooking the project. So it is their fee for that period of time. Next question, the expense for Big Swamp Drain and raccoon removal. So that is a check paid to Kevin Mathers, who is a trapper. There was a beaver in the Big Swamp Drain that needed to be removed, and the removal of the raccoon was for 190 Ann Street, and that was at the Public Works Manager's request. So the raccoon was creating havoc at that address.
Only in rural Ontario.
So those are the questions that I have received ahead of time. I now open the floor to any other questions.
Any other questions? Councillor Keo.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Estelle, I just have one question. I didn't want to ask our OPP representative there. I'm seeing our policing costs down about $14,000 less than what it used to be. I didn't want to ask him because I really don't back up at that level. Do we have any explanation why for once we're getting a break?
Through you, your worship, the OPP reevaluates, reassess, recalculates every single year as to the amount that each municipality will be responsible for. And yes, this year it's a lot.
Less.
It's less than it was in the previous year.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to the councillor. We are going to have the OPP back to speak about costs in September. So just a heads up that it probably is coming. Sorry.
Okay. All right, thank you. Councillor Cornelison, you had a question.
My question is for Brandon. Brendan, how much longer we have to pay Valley? I see his name on here, every account statement.
I can check, but I'm pretty sure we're nearing 100% on their side of things. We're pretty close to being done. I think
So
we
he
have-
hasn't got any extras or increased costs? He's sticking with his original proposal?
We're still under the original budgeted amount for the consultants. The construction admin was an add-on on the front end because we line itemed it, but from what they've told us, yeah, the numbers haven't changed yet.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions. We have a recommendation to receive these for information. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Keo, all in favor? Carried.
Your worship, if I may.
Yes.
I had a question brought to me from a member of council today in regards to the presentation of our expenses at council. As you are aware, we are currently implementing a new accounting software package, and not at the next meeting because I won't be here, but probably in September, we're very, very, very close to having the implementation done. So for the September, I would like to propose a different format in my presentation of the accounts to council. So instead, what I plan on doing, and I will tell you, and I know some of you will not agree with it, but right now we are presenting the actual payments to our vendors for a certain period of time. What I am proposing doing is presenting to council a budget variance report for council information in regards so they can see where we are at actual expenses versus budgeted expenses throughout the year. So that is my proposal for sometime in September. Obviously, there's going to be some adjustments, but that's what I propose bringing forth to council in September.
Wow, you started Councillor Irwin, then
I
Councillor
asked the
Daigle.
question. So it was me, and I fully support a budget variance report on a quarterly basis. I think that all the information council needs in terms of ensuring that we're on budget and we're following the expenditure. That's my position.
Councillor Daigle.
I was just going to ask if it would be possible when you do this first run, could it be presented both ways? Just to keep certain people happy.
Yes, of course, I can do that.
I do have to say too, I think that if I have to do it every time, that seems like a lot. And I think a quarterly variance report would be would be all right, unless something's out of whack. You know, if you see something that's, you know, causing a red flag, certainly. But that's my own. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Committee reports. Lake Huron Primary.
Nothing at this time, Mayor Rob.
Thank you. ABCA.
Yes, we're having our quarterly financial reports.
Okay.
But also.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the issue. I had an email from the manager of Bayfield this week regarding the apportionment agreement when he made the presentation to council, I think in May, I believe it was. And he wanted to know if we were prepared to sign it. And I guess before we, I don't know if the council has a sound understanding of what this apportionment agreement is. And I thought, I'd like to, if you have any questions on that, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay. Any questions at this time?
Because the apportionment agreement, what it is, it doesn't mean that we receive that percentage of the services. It means that we're responsible for that percentage of the costs, whether we receive the services or not. Okay. I don't know if he explained that to you when he did his presentation.
Who has to sign it? I think
you-
I know, yeah.
You guys.
Go ahead.
If I may, I received a couple of emails, but I think I mentioned it to you on our one-on-one meeting. And I need to take a look at now that I have a better understanding what that's about, because it came to me, fully through the process without an understanding what it's about. So I'll go back and look at them. I think they're actually looking for my support of it, but
Yes, I believe
certainly, I certainly will talk to the mayor and to the treasurer about it as well.
And if you need any more information, Jaden's also there. As familiar with the design, maybe even more so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Awesome. Okay, Blue Water Recycling,
I don't, nothing at this time.
Economic Development.
We had our meeting last month. We talked about the upcoming events that we have in the community, the biggest one being the reopening of downtown. And we also talked about the thought of bringing in different people to come in to do presentations. Mr. Irwin, do you want to add anything more?
We also discussed the need to do a long-range plan for economic development, perhaps a SWOT analysis or pestle analysis as part of the plan.
Okay, any questions? for anyone? No? Local School Advisory.
Not at this time, Your Worship, but we're planning on having a first meeting by the start of schools.
Okay, thank you. Recreation Committee? Nothing at this time. Policy Committee, you see there is a recommendation that came from the Policy Committee. Any questions on that?
Just an update to the community development fund policy. That's what we're writing.
Yeah. So we can do that at the end of correspondence, right? We'll need a motion to approve it. No? Okay, all right, thank you. Fire Committee, I don't think there's anything there right now. All right, correspondence. North Middlesex Agricultural Society Fall Fair Road Closure. Brandon, do you want to speak to that?
Through the mayor to members of council, I believe what they're looking for is the waiving of the fees, which we have historically done.
Yeah.
And it's historically been just the manager of public works just waives it. It's not formally in their agreement. I believe what we're looking for out of this is the waiving and then an amendment to their agreement in order to throw in a line item that says we shall waive these in future.
So we need a motion to cover. Motion by Councilor Nerda, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. All in favor? Carried. Next one is Town of Petrolia, the increase of childcare spaces. Motion to support the seconder, Councilor Irwin, in favor? Carried. All right. Town of Essex, Code Red, Code Black, Local Emergency Response System, gaps. Receive and file. Municipality of Shania. Is that Shania? Looks like. Yeah. Head of Council, Special Powers, receive and support. File. Municipality of North Perth, vacant building official positions. Receive and file. Town of Selwyn, short-term rentals. Receive and file. All right. And the other two, receive and file is right-of-way management committee. Scholarship opportunities, and then Stratford City Council Civic Night invitation. I don't know if it's all right if you like theater. It's a nice evening. Other and urgent business. You still have to pay, but it is a nice evening. Other and urgent business. Councilor Irwin.
Yes, Your Worship. During our discussion, the committee of adjustment, it reminded me that we were pursuing urban design guidelines at some point. And I'm wondering when we will have some movement on that.
We will be getting a report, I think, that will touch on something to that. If you can hold off till the next meeting, okay. Go ahead.
I have another one.
Yep.
At a previous meeting, we discussed the Park Hill celebration of Main Street reopening, and we talked about potential sponsorship. I'm wondering if, I see she left, if we have a number in terms of how successful we are in securing sponsorship for the August 19th event.
I think we do. I think who's gonna speak to it?
I'm sorry, Kellen, did you want to speak? Okay, so we have, as you know, the sponsorship program had different levels. We had platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. We have received 2 platinum sponsorships and 1 bronze. So as of now, we've received confirmation of $21,000.
Okay.
It's hats off to Natalie.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think we should hire Natalie to go after some funding for the Civil Street.
Yeah, maybe we got the wrong people going for the Jaden.
It's funny you bring that up when she's not here.
Jaden, go ahead.
Through you, I just wanted to go back to the urban design guidelines. So we brought that delegation to council at a previous meeting to review that. And I believe then it was going to be something for budget to come back as a budget consideration for 2024. We haven't gone any further than that delegation and that information that was presented to council on that one.
Sorry, Jaden. Yeah, that's I think where it was left at.
Jaden is looking at me for confirmation. I don't remember where we left off, but we can certainly look at the minutes of the meeting and determine. But I do believe that Jaden is correct, where we were going to proceed and look at it for 2024, but I could be wrong.
Okay,
But I think we should look at the minutes.
Please. Paul, did you have, Deputy Mayor?
Through you, Mayor, up to Brandon, quick update on the sinkholes in Lions Club Park.
I believe Public Works has the pumper truck. Yeah, CT Environmental's coming tomorrow. They're going to flush that storm. So what it was the storm drain from, I'd guess the 60s. The bottom had it was concrete, broke out, so that's what caused it. Now they're going to flush it to make sure everything's good and camera it, as well as the other drain that goes through there. And once they get that done, make sure that everything's good back.
Excellent. Any other business? Councilor Daigle?
Just on the same topic, the park, is it still closed?
No, the park is currently open. We do have that area backfilled. So the hole is backfilled right now. They have put plastic wrap over top of where the hole was. And I believe they're confident that that'll hold. And then, yeah, through the flushing and stuff like that may cause other leaks. Not sure, but yeah.
As of yesterday, though, the barricades were still up.
So that was a miscommunication among staff. We got that looked after today. They're gone.
Okay, any other business? Go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, I just found the update in the minutes from the May 3rd, 2023 regular meeting when we had our Republic Urbanism Design Guidelines delegation, and it was decided upon by council that we would defer the matter to the Economic Development Advisory Committee for further discussion and any potential recommendations.
Okay, deferred items. Is there any other business? Any, no? Okay, deferred items. Is there any to speak on here? I see that I have follow-up by the CAO on the surplus properties. If there's, well, if there's nothing to follow up, that's fine. Whatever.
Your worship, if I may, I will sit down with the CAO and fill her in.
Okay, I don't think there's any deferred items here tonight that's going to be spoke on, is there? Go ahead.
I was approached today on third item that I brought up, and that was the extension of the gas line mains up in the area of Murray. And the person was just asking if we had any new news on what was going on.
Okay. Jaden?
So through you, we have been in contact with Enbridge about this. So Enbridge is continuing to look at this project in detail. They've determined a possible running line for the new gas main down Grand Bend Road. They're looking at the west side of the road because the east side is a bit congested with other utilities and fiber. So Enbridge is currently waiting on locates to confirm the proposed running line on the west side. And they've been in touch with a number of customers along that stretch. Once they get the locates, they will finalize their cost estimate, reach out to customers, and that will determine whether the project proceeds.
Is that okay? A follow-up? No? Anything else on deferred items? Seeing nothing. Communications, including county council. You'll see the highlights are there from June 20th and the municipal day comments. And I think it's going to be at the castle or at the office. It might be the last year it gets to go there. So that next year will be there. Reading of the bylaws.
Thank you, your worship. We have bylaws 69 to 71 of 2023 read for a first and second time.
First and second, Councilor Daigle, Councilor Theo, all in favor? Carrie, third and final? Whoops.
So sorry to cut you off like that, but we have several other bylaws for third and final, so I just need to read them out. It's 50, 51, 59, 69, 70, and 71 of 2023. You read a third and final time. Thank you.
Third and final. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, Councilor Irwin, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Is that it? Are we good? Move to adjourn. Councilor Keough, Councilor Nerda, all in favor? Carried.